Hello and welcome to the next retrospective, where today I'll be covering a game called Time Pilot 84, which is one of the first arcade games that I'd ever played back in sort of the late 80s. And Time Pilot 84 is a sequel to the original Time Pilot that was released in 1982 by Konami, where essentially you would control this ship which kind of went through different time zones. So you'd start in like 1910, having to shoot biplanes, and then kind of progress to 1940s, 1970s, 1982 with jets, and 2001 with UFOs. Fairly simple game which has quite a lot of fans, and as a result of that, it generated this sequel called Time Pilot 84, and this was a game that I originally discovered in this indoor market that you can see here. So unfortunately this place is no longer around. It's kind of been demolished and turned into a car park, but back in the mid to late 80s this is where I used to kind of go quite a lot with my parents. And essentially you get indoor markets still in quite a lot of towns, and what you would get is these different sort of market stalls set up with people selling various different wares and that. And around the time that I went, arcades were very popular. I mean, you would find arcade machines in chip shops and that kind of thing, and the indoor market was no different. So by its sort of cafeteria area, you had like a large range of arcades in a group, such as Phoenix and Asteroids and that kind of thing. But sort of in the middle there was these two particular arcade machines that really drew my attention, and there was a game called Jailbreak, which was also released by Konami, and which I'll probably do another retrospective on at another time. And on the other side of that there was this game called Time Pilot 84, which completely blew me away. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. It was kind of multi-directional scrolling. You had this kind of background which made it feel like you were sort of flying over the surface of the Death Star in Star Wars and that kind of thing. It's a very simple and straightforward game. There's not a lot to it, but it's extremely addictive, and I'd say to me it's a lot better than the original Time Pilot. There's a lot more to do, a lot more bonuses and things to find, and I mean I can play this game for hours on end without getting bored at all. And so at the time this was I just kind of got completely drawn in by it. I used to see people playing the game, and you'd have the attract screen as well, which you can see now. So you'd have this attract screen without putting any money in, and it would kind of give you a glimpse of what the game was like, and you get to see some of the later levels as well, and these like really cool ships that you could destroy, such as this bonus ship you can see here. And I was just used to beg my parents, could I have like a 10p to play this game? And it was with the old 10p's as well. We used to have to, back then it was, these massive great things they were compared to the 10p's we get now. But I mean, I'd be lucky if I get a 10p or a couple of 10p's, and if I did, then you know, hopefully I'll get two so I could play Jailbreak at the same time. But if not, then the main game I'd play is Time Pilot 84. So I'm going to kind of jump straight into it. I won't play for too long, just to give you a bit of a flavour. So it kind of works in the same way as the original Time Pilot. So you control a ship that flies in multiple directions and has to shoot all these different ships. The major difference is that you've got certain ships on the level, which if you sort of go in their general direction, these particular ones, if you get them in all at once, you get a bonus. If you go in the general direction of some of the ships, you'll notice you get this kind of targeting thing that appears. And if that happens, you can use your secondary fire to fire a homing missile on them. And I remember doing that at the time. I thought was really, really cool. It was just very different to it. It was a lot more sophisticated than likes of Asteroids or anything else that I'd really played. And I think it was the kind of the locking on aspect of it that really kind of made me fall in love with the game completely. But essentially what you do is you have to just shoot as many enemies as you can and try and get as many of these targeted enemies before you then get a call to defeat this end of level Guardian, which is the same on every level. But what happens is the enemies will get progressively harder as you go through the levels. So as we'll see in a minute, when we complete the level, the map doesn't change, but just the colour scheme of it changes, and then the secondary enemies that you lock onto also change as well. So here's the end of level Guardian. So we had that warning that suggested it was going to appear, and here it is, and it fires these homing missiles, which you can shoot. And we need to just get a lock on to that enemy to destroy it, and then we zoom off. And I absolutely love that zoom effect as well as you sort of disappear. I thought that was very cool as well at the time. So dotted around this map there's a lot of different hidden features. So as you sometimes go over these craters, you'll get like a random bonus appear, and we can get this 5,000 point bonus. And you want to kind of pick up as many of these as you can, just to kind of keep up your high score, and also get extra lives at certain points as well. So we always try and get those fleet of ships there. Those fleet of ships we destroyed. If I then try and destroy another fleet of ships that appear, then gradually that bonus will just keep increasing throughout the level. So although the map doesn't change, it is quite a large map, so it doesn't really matter too much, because it takes quite a while to get... damn it. So that was one of the secret bonuses which would have given me 5,000 points, which I just missed. It takes quite a while to get from one end of the map to the other, so really, with the change of colour scheme, it does feel like you are playing a different level, and not just replaying the same map over and over again, which essentially you are. But although it's not a massive amount to it, it's just extremely fun, mainly because of its simplicity. I think it's so easy to pick up and play. And compared to the original Time Pilot, I think there's a lot more to do to sort of keep your interest. I mean, there's these, at certain points in the map, you'll see these kind of like droids that are going along the different routes. See if I can find one of them quickly. Not doing particularly well because trying to play and sort of talk is quite difficult. You've got these kind of enemies that go in a big fleet, and I think if you manage to somehow destroy all of these together, then you get quite a large bonus. For instance, there's quite a few things like that you can do in the game. And what I'll do is I'll show you this really good website that shows you all the secrets about the game afterwards. So yeah, this is just a short retrospective. It's not a massive one where I'm going to go in great detail, but it's just kind of, if you haven't played this game before, then I massively recommend checking it out. Luckily, I mean, back in the day, I was really rubbish at this game, worse than I'm actually playing now, and I didn't get very far. And because I didn't get many 10p's, I couldn't really play it that much. And it's thanks to MAME that I'm sort of able to play this quite a lot at home, so I'm really grateful for that. Okay, so if I just going to come out of it. So, absolutely love that game, and one of the things I kind of wanted to do, once I got my Commodore 64, it was a case of trying to, when I realised you could pick up conversions of arcade games for the 64, like with Dragon Ninja, that I did in the previous video, I kind of went out trying to see if Time Pilot 84 had been preserved, and I found that there was like conversions or sort of unofficial conversions of the original Time Pilot, but there wasn't really anything that I could find of Time Pilot 84. And it wasn't until I found a game called Z, which was probably the closest that I found on the 64 to the game. So I'm just going to bring it up now. So this is Z that was written by Chris Butler, who's kind of famous for doing the conversions of Commando and Turbocharge, Arnie, and all those kind of games on the 64. And this is one of his early 64 titles that he did. And I remember seeing this, when I saw the screenshots, it looked very, very similar to how Time Pilot 84 looked, and I was very hopeful when I saw it. So as you can see, it is fairly similar. It's quite fast, but it's not really anything like Time Pilot at all. I don't know if maybe Chris had played the original Time Pilot 84 in the arcades at the time. He may have been inspired, because the backgrounds seem fairly similar. The difference with this game is that rather than just shooting fleets of enemies, you have to kind of hunt around and find these bombs that you pick up and sort of fly into this base here. So there we go. So we have this bomb. We then can't remember how he actually deployed a bomb. I think it's how do we actually fire it? There we go, press space, and essentially you keep picking bombs up and try and open up a gap so you can destroy the main base and then go on to the next level. So it wasn't really anything like it at all. But there was another game that I found in later years thanks to the internet, which is sort of the unofficial conversion of Time Pilot 84, but unfortunately, as you'll see in a minute, it's not that great at all. So Space Pilot, the original Space Pilot, was the kind of unofficial Time Pilot clone, which was not too bad. It's fairly decent conversion, not the best in the world, but it was okay. On the internet, I found this Space Pilot 2, and looking at the screenshots, I was thinking, oh, maybe this is it. But I was like massively disappointed when I loaded it up. And this was it. So clearly it's meant to be a sort of based on Time Pilot 84. You've even got the fleet of ships there, which give you a bonus if you manage to get them all. But I don't think you haven't got any homing missiles like with Time Pilot 84. And the scrolling is just incredibly slow. So really, unfortunately, kind of completely missed out. So there was no kind of decent conversion in the game at all, which was a massive shame really, because I would have loved to have played it. It wasn't until sort of 1998 when sort of MAME came out as an arcade emulator I had the first opportunity to play the game again, because the indoor market was closed down by that point and the arcade machine had long gone. And it's one of those games which you don't really see in the wild. I've never seen an original cabinet of Time Pilot 84 at all, and it seems to be quite extremely hard to find and pick up. So it's thanks to MAME that I was able to enjoy it after all these years. So it's one of those games which I'd love to see a conversion on the 64, but I can see it being quite tricky because of the multi-directional scrolling and the things to do. But if someone did do a conversion or something unofficial at some point, I would be absolutely blown away. It'd be really amazing. Okay, just to conclude, so in recent years I've kind of found this website which is dedicated to Time Pilot 84, and this website will actually kind of go through all the different enemy types. It'll kind of talk about the game, give you a bit of history, talk about the weapons and the strategies for it. But what's really cool is that you've got the entire sort of map that shows you for the entire game that you can have a look at, which is quite nice. And you've kind of got these different breakdown of the enemies, so it'll tell you what enemies you'll get on the different levels, and then some other details as well. And there should be a bit which talks about the secrets as well, which is quite handy. All the bonuses. So there's a biplane bonus that if you shoot, I think you get an extra life. I'm sure there is one where it actually shows you where all the secrets are on the map. I think you look at the map and it shows you. But that's it. So yeah, very short retrospective, just to kind of give you a bit of a flavour. If you haven't played Time Pilot 84 before, I highly recommend checking it out for yourself. And hopefully one day someone might decide that will make a fantastic conversion to the 64, but you know, I'm probably just dreaming. Okay, so thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next retrospective.